5 tours, 68 years, not one series win. Between 1928 and 1996, the All Blacks came to South Africa 5 times, and 5 times they went home beaten or level. This is the country that broke them. And in August, 30 years after they finally cracked it, they're coming back. The All Blacks, who sailed for Cape Town in 1928, were the best team in the world, and they knew it. George Nepia was not on the boat. Nepia was the finest fullback New Zealand had produced. He played every minute of every match on the Invincibles tour of Britain 4 years earlier. South Africa's rugby authorities made it clear Maori players would not be welcome, and the New Zealand Union agreed. First test in Durban, 17-0 to South Africa. New Zealand didn't score a point. They came back at Ellis Park and won 7-6. Series finished 2-2, a draw. In New Zealand, that counted as failure. 21 years later, the New Zealand Union left out Johnny Smith, Ben Couch, and Vincent Bevan for the same reason. Danny Craven had just taken over as Springbok coach. He won his first 10 matches. South Africa took the series 4-0. New Zealand rugby still calls 1949 the blackest year in its history. Beaten in every test, with a squad picked to suit another country's race laws. By 1960, New Zealanders had started pushing back. A petition against sending an all-white team gathered roughly 150,000 signatures in a country of 2.5 million. Protesters met the squad at the airport. The slogan was 4 words: "No Maoris, no tour." The tour went ahead. South Africa won it 2-1 with 1 drawn. 7 years later, the New Zealand government cancelled the next one. Maori players were still barred. The 1970 tour happened because South Africa blinked. Sid Going, Blair Furlong, Hinare Milner, Brian Williams, who was Samoan. 4 players granted a legal designation by the apartheid state so the tour could go ahead. Honorary whites. Williams became the most popular player on the tour. Black South African crowds packed into the sections they were permitted to occupy and cheered him against their own team. He was 19 and later said he had no idea what he'd walked into. Closest series yet. South Africa took the first, 17-6. New Zealand answered at Newlands 9-8. Then Springbok wins 14-3 and 20-17. Series to South Africa, 3-1. June 1976, Soweto. School children marched against being taught in Afrikaans and police opened fire. 3 weeks later, the All Blacks landed in Johannesburg. African nations demanded New Zealand be expelled from the Montreal Olympics. The IOC refused. More than 24 countries walked out of the Games. The protest was triggered by the New Zealand rugby team's tour of apartheid-era South Africa, just weeks before the Olympics began. The rugby was brutal and close. South Africa 17-6, New Zealand 15-9, then 15-10 and 15-14 to the Springboks. 1 point in the decider, 3-1 again. In 1977, the Commonwealth signed the Glen Eagles Agreement. The tours were finished. Mandela walked out of Victor Verster in 1990. By 1992, South Africa was back in World Rugby. Then 1996. John Hart coaching, Sean Fitzpatrick captain, a squad that had lost a World Cup final in Johannesburg the year before. They won the series 2-1. 68 years, 5 tours, beaten, whitewashed, beaten, and then a team that got it done. They were called the Incomparables. Fitzpatrick rated it above winning the 1987 World Cup, and he had a winner's medal from 1987 to compare it to. South Africa took the final test. Didn't matter. The record that stood since 1928 was gone. 30 years. Since 1996, these teams have played more often than any rivalry in rugby, almost all of it inside tournaments. 2 tests here, 1 there, a World Cup knockout, never a tour. In August, the All Blacks come back for 3 tests on South African soil and a 4th in Baltimore in September. Siya Kolisi called it the kind of tour his generation only heard stories about. 6 times the All Blacks have toured South Africa. They've won a series here once.